1, 2, 3. Boom! What's going on, everyone? It's Rahman Mustafa.
It's Emmanuel Hope.
And it's the Ends to Excellence podcast. Thank you for joining us. Yes. Today we have a special guest.
Thank you very
We
much.
have Sunil Okonedo.
Jeez.
Round of applause now,
What's that? Yeah,
Man's
brother.
himself his own round of applause.
I don't do myself, who will, you get me?
Don't know. So, for those that don't know, Sunil is the lead in the Change New Business Initiative team. That's a tongue twister still. With almost a decade of experience in the financial sector, more specifically investment banking. Yeah. So you're in one of the top 4 investment banks.
Top 2.
Top 2. Okay.
Top 2, yeah.
Say nice.
When the banks are crashing, we know who
know to come
Not me, boy.
He also has a keen passion for property and investing heavily in building his property portfolio globally. So, welcome to the podcast,
you
brother.
can jump into that one.
Do that one. Yeah.
Welcome to the podcast, bro.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, guys.
Cool. So one of the first things we ask all of our guests is, what ends are you from, brother?
Obviously, I'm from South. Born and raised in Streatham, South London. So
Streatham, yeah.
It's got to be done.
Okay, reference South. Cool.
Gang.
And what industry would you say that you're excelling in right now?
For me, I'd say financial sector, investment banking. So as you kind of introduced me, been working it for close to a decade now.
It's OG.
Damn.
Yeah, I feel like an OG still. But still there's so much more to go. But yeah, I've been working it for about a decade now and just kind of growing in that sector and obviously exploring other avenues as and where they pop up, I guess.
Dope. So how did you, what's your journey? How did you get into this industry?
So how far back we starting from uni days?
As far back as
you
want, brother.
Yeah, I mean, what did you, even, because obviously nowadays it's like, the young dons from college, they build them up like they need to know what they're gonna do in it. So
that's the vibe. Yeah, I didn't have any of that. So to be honest, I was juggling. I always knew I had a keen passion for technology. That was my first passion, I would say.
Okay.
So from early, I was just into technology. So from A levels, it was computer science, biology, chemistry, maths, all that stuff. But yeah, I kind of was drawn towards technology. And then going into university, I went to Brunel.
Brunel.
You man know already?
Yeah.
So yeah, I went to Brunel, and then I studied business management with computing.
Okay.
So I think I kind of chose that because still at this point I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. So I know it was something technology based.
Okay.
But I wanted to have some kind of business acumen to kind of twin that up. So I kind of went through that kind of 50-50 role. And luckily enough, and probably one of the best decisions I did was doing a 4-year sandwich placement.
Okay.
So there was an option between a standard 3-year course and then the 4 years with 1 year in the industry.
Yeah.
Cool. So I kind of opted for that and then obviously went through that and thankfully I did 1 year in GlaxoSmithKline, which is a pharmaceutical company.
Yeah, GSK.
GSK, exactly, yes. I think it's the second largest pharmaceutical company in the world. So
it's on this top 2 things.
Obviously, top 2.
Don't know that.
But so I was there for a year. And that gave me a good solid foundation of just how the corporate world works across the board.
Sorry to cut you. What were you doing in GSK?
So I was in a BA role. So I was kind of analysing new businesses, a bit of project management, a bit of technology, a bit of coding. So it was a bit of everything. They were just chucking you into everything to see kind of where you stick.
Okay.
Which was good. Found out very quickly that coding wasn't for me. You got to have the right mindset for that. And that's something that it doesn't tickle my fancy. But came out from Brunel, graduated, and then kind of just landed. And I was like, well, what do I want to do now? So with technology being my kind of key focus, I kind of thought, you know what, let me look at the Googles, the IBMs, the Apples, all those places, and kind of some of the roles that were out there weren't really kind of reaching out to. A lot of it was coding based and stuff, and I thought, no. So I was kind of just in a rut and didn't really know what to do next. So luckily, some of my friends were applying for some banks and financial institutions. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to start applying as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if you probably did this. I'm sure it's the same for some of the engineering stuff you've done, but some of the application forms are long. They're like pieces of coursework.
It's a madness.
Yeah.
So there's 8-10 questions and each are 5,000 to 10,000 words. So obviously hella copy and pasting from one
all day.
Regardless, I was just applying to those with my friend, and me and him both got through to the bank that I'm at now, assessment centre. So you had to go through rounds of interviews before that. And kind of luckily, went to the assessment centre, did well. Got offered a permanent role, and unfortunately my friend didn't. He's doing all right now, but at that point he didn't. But and that's kind of how I got into the financial industry. So.
Okay. So would you say that's the best route to get in for the younger people watching?
No, so I'll be honest with you. I think there's a lot of not hidden information, but from the background we're from, I think most of you know that your parents are on you just studying.
Yeah.
Get an A. That's what they know.
Yeah.
But I think times have changed. Everyone's coming out with A's now. Everyone's coming out with first or 2-1s in uni, right? So you need something to differentiate yourself from the market.
Okay.
And I think experience and the wealth of experience within the financial industry is something they don't really tell people. They don't make it readily accessible to Joe Blogs and loads. And I think that's kind of what I think the youth should look into. So if they're interested in getting into the financial industry, there's like loads of different routes they can get into. There's bits of experience they can do before they even get to uni, before they even get to like finishing a degree that will stand them out from the rest of the crowd. They've got like at A level, they've got like spring weeks and Easter weeks where they invite you into these banks for, you know, a week or two.
Okay.
And that's something you can put on your CV. And a lot of times it's like a fast track process. So if you go into the spring week and you do well there in like 2 weeks or a month, whatever it may be, they might fast you on to the internship.
Got you.
So then you might do an internship, you know, similar to what I did at GSK. You might go and do something for a year in a sandwich course. And then if you do well in that internship, they fast forward you into the graduate scheme. So a lot of times they might have 100 roles, for example, and 80% are taken up by people that have been in that from early.
Got you.
So a lot of times people are fighting and losing battle if they haven't kind of got in early enough and got that experience. So it's just making sure that people, if they're interested in getting in that, and people that have got kids or young kids looking at it, is just get involved there and try and get as much experience as you can.
And that is from college days?
Starts from college days, from year 12, 13.
Got you.
And then going upwards, right?
So saying that, would you say, how did you find uni then? What was your university experience?
University?
Yeah.
University was good, man. I think everyone knows first year you're just there enjoying yourself, and it was good. It was good to get away, and I think you learn a lot about yourself at university. So for those that are not sure, you know, obviously now it's more expensive now for the young ones. It's 9K minimum a year, right?
Yeah.
Whereas our days it was 3K, right? So you now need to have a lot more understanding of what you want to do and is it worth it when you're into it. But for me, I enjoyed my experience. I think the most valuable piece was that year in GSK. I think when I went into my interviews and my assessment centres, I actually had tangible stuff to talk about. So, you know, everyone knows the interview questions is always name a situation where when you had to deal with conflict or something like that.
Overcoming stuff.
Some people are probably talking about, in uni, I had I had to hand in coursework and one guy wasn't doing the work or something. That's good, but then like, if I'm able to relate it to like when I was working for GSK, we had a tight deadline and blah, blah, blah. It's more tangible and it shows. And I think those are kind of real life experiences that I gained from uni. And I think that kind of helped me get to where I am. So
would you do uni again, knowing what you know now?
I would, yeah. I think not just from a educational standpoint, but I made some lifelong brothers. I kind of met good people. So from a networking and everything perspective, I definitely wouldn't, even just from our year at Brunel, there's so many people that are doing great and amazing things. And I think just being tied into that network is a special thing. So.
Dope. So still on the basis of uni, do you feel like people need to go to uni to get into your industry?
No, so you don't need to. There's like different routes. So the most common route, and I think if there's certain roles you want to get into, so people, when they think of investment, they're thinking of front office roles, so trading, sales, etc. You probably will need to do that, right? So I'm not saying it's impossible, but you'll need to go to uni, come out and go to uni, get good grades, have some experience and go through that whole route. But there are other routes in, so there's internships for people that haven't gone to uni, and you said if you go into internship and you do well, then, you know, potentially there's roles for you to stay in afterwards. And on top of that, you know, you can apply to kind of other roles within the bank. Maybe not as glamorous, but it's a foot in the door, right? So once you get in, you're free to move around these banks as much as you want. So once you're in, I think you're allowed to move after a year in a specific role. So you're in, you do something for a year, you learn, you see, you network, and then you see what other doors open, right? So by no means it's the only way, but it's probably the most common way, I would say.
Cool.
Got you. And again with uni, I know we're sticking with uni heavy, so do you need a particular degree to get into banking? Because obviously there's accounting, there's business management like you did. So is there like one degree that's particularly favoured in the industry?
Once again, it depends what you're going into. So, you know, all the finance-based stuff and maths-based stuff, so maths, economics, all that kind of stuff is looked favourably upon. But it's not just that. I think a lot of the times with these investment banks, they're going to teach you everything you need to know. But it's just applying yourself and doing subjects that require kind of the work and dedication to get it through, right? So not saying it's impossible, but if someone's coming out of an art degree, I don't know if that's really transferable
apply.
skills into going to financial role. But stuff like physics and chemistry, although it's not directly, it shows that kind of you're in the right in the right mind space, right? So, so yeah.
So moving on a bit. So yeah, you kind of entered your industry in what, like a grad scheme?
So I was in the grad scheme, yeah. So, it was a grad
so did that help in terms of adjusting to office life, politics, and etc.? But were you with your like age mates?
Yeah, no, that was good because I think when I joined the grad scheme at the bank I work at, it was good because you come across, there's probably about 100 or so people that kind of joined at the same time as you. Loads of different backgrounds. Kind of had people from Oxford, Cambridge. You had people that are coming from abroad. You had people that are coming from like Asia, New York, everywhere. So you have kind of people from all over the place. You get to network, and you're all kind of doing that same journey at the same time. So, throughout the time I've been there, there's still people that I joined day one that I'm still in touch with now. So it was kind of good to be able to grow and learn and kind of go through that. And it's almost like they teach you. I think going in fresh, they would expect different things from you. When you're on the grad scheme, they kind of know what you're on and kind of where you're at. So I think it's definitely beneficial to try to go that route if you can.
The grad scheme?
Yeah.
Okay, calm. So when you got into kind of out of the grad scheme, like it wasn't really a shock going from like learning basically the work culture, working with different, politics, ethnicities, etc.
Okay, I see the leading questions there.
Not leading, but obviously from talking to different people in our podcast series, like everyone has always been kind of a running theme that maybe once they was in uni, they didn't know how to kind of adjust the way of thinking, way of talking, the way they present themselves in the office environment to get the points across, or even just to prosper and to make promotions, etc. Is that something you ever struggled with, or is it just something?
I think everyone that's ethnic is going to kind of come across that working in.
Not necessarily ethnicity, but
No, but I'll be honest. But I think from my points, I think the hardest things I had to get was really the networking side, and obviously being with one of the only few black people kind of within the bank. There were a few others, but if you're looking at percentage-wise, you're looking at low single digits, right? So already you kind of stand out, and it's just adapting yourself to that. So obviously, you have to be able to adapt, and I think, coming from where we come from, in London, I think everyone knows how to adapt to a certain level. Yeah. But I found it particularly challenging just because looking at growth within the bank, you would look and you wouldn't really see many people that look like you in positions of power or leadership, right? Yeah. So I think that's something that can be transferred into like a lot of other different industries as well. So I think from my point of view, it was difficult not seeing that as readily as maybe someone else would see that. But kind of through networking and not to always be so negative, but within some of the banks there are like these network groups similar to what they have at ACS There's like there's kind of similar ones within the bank, and that helps you network and meet people. And through that you do meet different people from different areas that have gone on and grown. But I think personally, I think obviously the lack of people that look like you was definitely one thing. And the other thing was just like the networking side of things. I think a lot of how you progress is networking, and not just like networking in office hours, a lot of outside office hours. So me, once my time's done, I'm looking to get out of the industry. I want to go home and either chill with the man then, or see the missus, or see friends or whatever. Whereas a lot of these guys, it's going into a bar or to a pub, and that's where a lot of the social, and that's where a lot of the mingling and stuff happens. And I think just trying to adapt to that and understanding that it's not always just you do your job well, so you're going to get what you deserve. It's you do your job well, and you have to nice up the right people as well. So I think it's probably a life lesson that you don't always get what you deserve. You get kind of what you work for, and I think it's just understanding kind of the politics around it and navigating your way through that. And I think it's all well and good people telling you that, but when you're in it, that's the only way you kind of learn it. I guess.
I hear that.
Fair. So talking more about like work politics and stuff like that, have there been instances where you've directly had to deal with like madnesses, or you've seen firsthand like people being held back or things like that?
Boy, like it's hard to pinpoint and say this is the reason why someone got held back, but I think you see people, and you see people that do well at the job, and you question why they are where they're. I think without going into too many specifics, you're trying to get me in trouble here. But
I want a job to go back to,
Yeah, you're trying to get me in trouble. But no, without going too much specific, obviously there was always instances we see and you think that's not quite right? But at the end of the day, it's just how you overcome that and just really understanding kind of how you navigate through that and kind of going around it. And I think a lot of the time it's kind of being in the right team. I think if you find like some people can work on the same floor and two different teams on the same floor can have completely different experiences of kind of their working environment. I think it's down to your team and the people around you and your management chain, because you know there's people that, me personally, I've been quite lucky where, especially recently, the teams I've been in have been kind of blessed, and I think that's down to myself because I've chosen careers or career paths that allow me to have a bit more flexibility in picking where I sit. But yeah, some people may not have had that good experience, and I think that's definitely out there, and it's something that probably needs to be addressed. But yeah.
Okay, fair. So back to like your role and what you've chosen. So you're in the Change New Business Initiative team.
Okay.
Is that right? Did I get it right?
Change a new business, but yeah.
Change a new business. So what does that mean, and what do you do? What's your day-to-day kind of thing?
Okay, so yeah. So basically, you can think of it like a consultancy firm within the bank, right? Okay. So any new changes, it says, or like business initiatives, they'll come to our team to implement and roll it out. So for example, Brexit is a big topic for everyone at the moment. Working with the different teams internally to make sure that we're Brexit ready, right? Across my area anyhow. Similar with if people want to start trading new products in a new environment. So if you want to do something new in Switzerland or you want to do something new in China, for example, then it's working with that to basically make things happen, right? So reach out to the right teams, and it's quite multifaceted because you have to understand the product you're working with, you have to understand how the bank works, and it's basically collecting the right people and just trying to make it all happen. So they kind of range from short-term initiatives that may take a couple of weeks versus stuff that I've been working on for 2 to 3 years that are kind of only just gone live. So it kind of depends, and it's very varied, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I enjoy doing what I do.
Dope. So it's varied, so you never get in the same thing?
No, never.
That's dope. One other thing about work. So let's say you said your work is varied, but what's a typical day for you, or what's your working hours like as working in the bank? How was that for you?
So I've got blessed with my working hours. It wasn't always, especially in my new role, but obviously previously it has been some late nights, but currently I work probably about 9 to 6. Okay. Is a normal day to me, 9 to 6. And then, as I said, a lot of the days is meetings, so it's kind of split into two. So I try and dissect a good chunk of my time to work on my team. So I've got a team of kind of junior people under me. And I know, especially when I came up in the bank, like it makes or breaks you if you have a good manager. So from the lessons I've learned, I want to try and make sure that for the people that I'm managing, I try and nice them and give them the knowledge and experience they need. So always dedicate a bit of time for that. But other than the one-to-ones and stuff, it's meetings with stakeholders, understanding kind of what they need, working, liaising with tech teams, liaising with front office teams, liaising with a lot of teams, just to try and make that project roll and kind of get that change initiative through. So a lot of meetings, a lot of communicating with people, a lot of documenting stuff, a lot of checking and calling and this, that and the other. But yeah, it's as busy as you want to make it, right? Got so it's kind of, when deadlines come nearer, that's when everything ramps up a bit, right? So it just kind of varies, right? So
makes sense. Cool. So obviously it sounds like, so what, you enjoying yourself now? So what would you do if you had a chance? What's your kind of biggest regret, or what would you do differently to this point?
Regrets, them questions there.
Soul searching.
You know what? I don't really think I have regrets like that in regards to career choice, because I'll be honest with you, I kind of fell into finance. I don't think anyone grew up saying, finance is my passion when they were young, right? So I kind of grew into it, but I don't have regrets because I feel like it's allowing me now, at the stage I'm in my life, to explore my passions. Okay. So I think it's kind of a means to an end, right? I think, if I had gone something else, maybe I would have had more fun or enjoy my career more, but I think at the stage I'm at now, I feel like it's allowing me to explore avenues that I potentially wouldn't have had if I didn't go into finance.
Makes sense.
So that's kind of the way I look at it. So
cool. So what are these other passions and avenues like? So what's going on outside of work?
So I think we've spoken a lot about it. So that's what I always speak about. But I think property is a big thing, and I think the importance of property, investing in property, owning property, and just getting your assets up. I think so. I think property is definitely something that has been big on me, and that's been drilled into me from my parents from early. Cool. So that's the kind of vibe I'm on, and we've had many conversations previously. Right?
Cool. So going into property then, how old did you? So you own property now?
Yeah.
So how old was you when you first bought your property? How did you get it done? Like what was your, like, because obviously there's so many schemes out there for guys now, innit? What when you first decided, okay, cool, like I want to start buying property, what was in your head? What did you think? Did you want to go on a scheme? Did you want to start saving? Like what was
So
your
I'll be
process?
honest, I might be betting on my age here, but when I got my first property, which I was 25 at the time, I think, 25, 26, I don't think those schemes are about, or if they were, they're in the infancy and they weren't really as well known, at least not to me at that time anyhow. So I went down the traditional old route of just dropping a deposit and obviously just copping a property like that. But there are, as you mentioned, a lot of schemes out there now, especially for the young people to get involved in. I think that's definitely one route to look into if they're looking to get involved in property. But from my point of view, I just kind of put a deposit down and bought area, and I was key that I wanted to buy a property in the area that I grew up in. So I made sure I bought something in like Streatham Tooting, because it's local to me, and like I know the ends and
Buy back the block.
that's the way. That's the vibe. You got to buy back the block in it. So that was my vibe, and then I kind of did that, and that kind of got my interest up and my juices kind of bubbling on that vibe, and from there I've just kind of been just looking to expand as much as I can, right?
So what was your property? What, as in like you thought, okay, let me save like, I don't know, 10% or 20% on like a small flat, or was you trying to go for the killer, the jugular?
Well, to be honest, at that stage I was looking to invest to obviously live in at that point. It wasn't until later on expired that, okay, maybe there's more to it than just that.
Okay.
So for me, it was just a one-bed flat like in Streatham, and I thought, from there, see what happens. And then obviously, as you said, as you understand more, you grow more, your career progresses, other avenues open, and that's kind of when I thought, okay, well, maybe we can look at number 2 or whatever, number 3 or whatever. So that's kind of the vibe I was on.
So what advice would you say to young people? Obviously now it's getting harder and harder for people to get. It's mad. So it's getting harder for people to get into property ladder now, and they have all of these schemes. Like, what advice would you give to someone that's looking to buy a house now or thinking about it?
Firstly, I know too much about it, Share. By no way are we financial advisors. So disclaimers before you listen to this, just obviously do your own research. But I would just say, definitely, like, the schemes out there are good. But I would just say, make sure you do your research on the schemes, because the schemes are good and they definitely help you get on the ladder, and they're good ways. But some of the exit clauses, selling stuff on, buying back more percentages of stuff you do, etc. Some of those, they have fine prints or can be a bit techie, etc. So you just got to make sure you have like a plan going forward, right? So you might buy a 1-bedroom flat, whatever, and if you want to move it on in a year or two, you might find it difficult because of you've bought a small percentage or some other clauses. So I'm just saying, make sure that you kind of understand and have an exit plan available for that. But I definitely would just advise anyone watching this that if you have spare cash, and I know it sounds dumb that everyone just has cash laying. No, but work towards something, right? Put money aside, save towards it, have a goal, because at the end of the day, and we've had this conversation many times before, it's about legacy. And property is the easiest way to create a legacy and pass something down generation to generation, right?
100%.
Without getting too political and too whatever else, there's a lot of people in this country that are rich, born rich, just because of property, right? You've then got to ask yourself, would you not want your kids or your grandkids to have that kind of saving foot up, right? You look at it when our parents were here, first of all, my mom was the first generation in this country, probably in the 60s, 50s, 60s. And she was buying, or you can buy a yard then for maybe 10 grand.
Yeah, change.
Mad. Yeah. You got to look at that now, how the percentage-wise, what yards are going. That same yard now could be worth $1 million. You got, obviously, there's only there's a limit on how much property you can get to, but at the same time, historically, the projection is going one way, right? So you've got to make sure that you kind of have something that you can pass down, and it's the easiest way to do that. So that's from my point of view. You've got to make sure you have that and just invest. That's
mad. So as soon as you can get on it, definitely get on the property ladder.
I don't see what will be stopping people from doing that. Obviously, there's a big hurdle that it takes a lot of money and saving, of course, and that's not easy. But once you're there and you have it, you shouldn't hesitate about pulling the trigger. Right?
Well, obviously, there's different ways to do it, innit? Like, I know a couple of people I know. Like, for example, when I was in college and stuff, like they put their names on council flats and stuff like that, so that they can.
Smart guys, right? Smart guys. What can I say? Smart guys, right?
So that they can eventually buy it at a cheaper price. Right to buy. So like, I think when I was growing up, especially with my scenario, I think, we did it without looking into it too much. I think it's probably more beneficial to speak to someone quite early like a financial advisor or even just a mortgage broker just to see how you could jump onto the property ladder, because sometimes it's not, although you did it the traditional way, sometimes there's so many different ways to jump on property. Like it's not just okay, let's save and bag up and go. Like there's a lot of different loopholes, so to speak, to try and jump on.
And you'd be surprised, it's a lot easier than you think, as in regards to like there's different routes that, as you said, to get into, right? It's not just traditional put down a 25% deposit or 20% deposit and kind of pay out a mortgage. There's other ways into it, right? As you said, you can buy with a friend, you can buy with a family member, there's do it for a business, there's different ways of doing it, right? As you said, depending on your situation and speaking to a financial advisor or mortgage advisor especially, because you're going to HSBC, you're going to NatWest or these banks in the high street, you're going to get a set lending rate. But if you speak to a mortgage broker, there's so many different rates and stuff out there that you guys can get involved in. So.
Another thing they could do is even like get their first property could be an investment property like outside of London.
Exactly.
Everyone's thinking, I need to get my first house to live in, but potentially you could get your first house outside of London that will be substantially cheaper than buying in London, and then that can like help you save towards your actual house that you do live in down the line. So yeah, that's another way of doing it. I was gonna say something, I can't remember now. About houses. I don't know. You got a question?
Yes, sorry, bro. So so obviously that was your first flat, innit? What? So have you progressed since then?
Yeah. So bought a second in London. That's gonna be more of a family home potentially. God willing, we see what happens with that one. But that could be a potential family home, and also investing abroad. So brothers and sisters got a yard in the Caribbean.
Okay.
Dope.
And I want to hopefully next year get something in Africa, Nigeria, ideally.
Yeah. Okay.
That obviously comes with a whole other set of techiness as well. But that's something I'm just investigating and exploring at the moment.
Okay.
But I think it's definitely just about diversifying your portfolio. So, I kind of set myself a goal that because it's very passive at the moment, I want to do it kind of every 2 to 3 years. I want to try and get another property. And just kind of leave that as a nest egg for kids or a rainy day or for whatever. Because, as the equity goes up one day, I might just get bored of it and just sell it all and just cash up,
cash up
and go live in the island somewhere. But at least that option's available, right? So I think, just trying to re-up every few years. And to that, and I'm sure both you guys have probably seen that the appreciation of property, given the last few years have been a bit higgy because of Brexit and stuff, right? I think it's been a bit mad for Brexit, but historically, once we get over this blip and you see kind of where the landscape is,
Everything's settled,
historically, you're buying a flat, and for myself, the money I put in my deposit, within 3 years, I was able to get that out from remortgaging, right? So I was able to basically get that out for free. I put the money in, appreciated, remortgaged, took it out, and then just kind of use that to get something else, and then rent that one out and blah blah blah, and then just go again, right? So the hardest one is the first one, and I think once you've got the first one, you'll get the taste. You'll take some L's along the way, and you'll turn them into lessons, and you'll kind of move forward from that, right?
So then with your first one, so what, do you rent that out now?
Yeah, no, I rent that one out. So
So how's it? I'm just asking this because how is it like being a landlord, isn't it? Because that's a different take.
It's good and bad. I think it's good because you see it from the other side. I try to be a good landlord. I can't say the same for everyone, but it depends on the tenant you get. Some tenants are great and they'll treat it like it's their home. Yeah. And then some tenants will kind of take the piss a bit and not respect the thing and be calling you for the smallest thing, like a light bulb might blow. And it's like, they're calling you, my light bulb's blown. Well, buy another light bulb and replace it. Then why are you calling me for this, right? But it's just kind of trying to find the right people in your space to respect it. And I think once you have that mutual respect both ways, then kind of you work on respecting it. Yeah. That's the vibe. But it's not easy. It's stressful and
it's not as easy as it looks.
It's not as easy as it looks, and there's always something that go wrong. Like if sod's law, a pipe will burst and the electrics will go in 1 month, and it's like, wow, that's on top of everything else. I got to now do this, and then something's going wrong somewhere else. It's a bit mad, but it is what it is, right?
So you mentioned L. I think one of you mentioned L. So what would you say is your biggest L as far as this whole property thing?
So I wouldn't say it's an L, but it's a lesson. So the first property I got for a lot below market value because it had a shorter lease.
Okay.
First one was leasehold. So I'm not sure if many of you know, but obviously I'm sure many people do. But leaseholds, when it gets below 80 years, it's when you have to pay a lot more to renew it, right?
Yeah.
So mine was pretty close. It wasn't below 80. It was a thing of about 83 when I copped it. So when I did it just on 80, so it was a little bit more pricey than it should have been. But I think just that whole piece, I think it was a lesson, because I don't think I would have been able to afford the property I got in the location if I had a long lease. That would have added extra 20, 30, 40, 50k to the price. But at the same time, having to then 2 years or so after copping the property to then find the money to renew a lease, which isn't cheap.
Yeah.
You're looking at tens of thousands then to renew the lease.
Wow.
It's probably something I didn't want to do so fresh into it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a catch-22. So it's a lesson learned. It was an L, but it's kind of not in the long term, because you do it once in your lifetime, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think that's probably my biggest lesson, just around that and kind of the whole leasehold stuff and side of things. So. What about you, man? You man are quite. I know you man active in the house and things as well.
Rahman doesn't like to shine,
property.
so I don't know. He's there, and he doesn't like to shine.
Yeah, I got my flat a couple of years ago now. Bought in Vauxhall. So I did
zone
it.
One and that, yeah.
You know.
Wow, zone one like that, yeah.
It's a blessing. It's a blessing. So I got it through the council route that you said. So
yeah.
I got my house because it's overcrowding. Then got onto the housing list or whatever registry, and after 5 years, you can purchase your property. So I've got that now, and then the aim is, like yourself, get the equity out and then go again. So yeah, it's one thing that I realized, just like speaking to brokers and stuff like that, was it's not about how much you can save.
No.
It's about how much you earn.
Yeah.
That's So that's one thing people need to understand, because how much you earn will determine what kind of mortgage you can get. Exactly. And so, and as well as that, then credit is a big factor as well. So I think that's
credit history.
Credit history is
cool.
So that's one thing that young people need to know, is it's not an easy pill to swallow, but if you want a decent yard, you need to earn a certain amount.
Especially in London.
Especially in London. So yeah, that's something that people need to bear in mind, I think. So.
Or just get married up early and then go treat people, right?
Yeah.
2 salaries are better than one, right?
100%. So what they do when you're doing with your part, they add them together, right? And then they time to buy the multiplier. I think right now it's 4.5.
Well, if you're lucky, you can get 5. You can get 5 point something.
So you got the plug.
That's what I'm saying. You go to a broker and then they'll sort you out. On the high street, you might be getting 4. But if you go to a broker, obviously, depending if you hit the right kind of criteria, earn X amount and blah blah blah, then you can get 5 plus. But with the interest rates low at the moment, it's obviously it's low, so it's good. Yeah. But you know that it's going to go up at some point, so you've got to be able to make sure that when that time does come, that you can obviously afford that, right? So
you jump on a fixed term. I think with mine is slightly different. Mine is a bit more complicated. I jumped on the mortgage with my mum quite early, and then once I was earning quite a lot, I was earning a lot more money. Then I was able to take that mortgage on from my mum. Then I turned that into a buy to let.
Okay, then that's the way.
then obviously I became
interest only, right?
Can't remember, Yeah, I think it is. I think it is. Yeah. So interest only at the moment. Obviously with a view to start to change once the product is done. And then that's it. And then so then I took out some money from the house as well to use some of that. Obviously combine it with the money saved as well, and then I went on to buy another property which I live in now, with a view to now buy another one afterwards. So it's about, so obviously at the time when I first jumped on, it was hard work, just because I was supporting a mortgage when I was just I wasn't earning much, but like Rahman was saying, it's all to do with kind of how much you're earning. So after I was earning quite a substantial amount, and I was just able to take it on by myself, then it was a lot easier. It's just making sure it's more politics with the family really, than as opposed to me actually being able to do something with the finances. So it is definitely, for me, myself personally, I think I wouldn't have been able to do that without just doing a bit of research, speaking to the right people, speaking to a broker, getting other people's advices to see how they would do it, because it's I wouldn't know anything about buy-to-let mortgages elect to buy mortgages or anything like that without speaking to someone or just going to my Halifax. They wouldn't tell me that. So it's one of them. Like you have to, if you're on it, then you literally have to research and how to invest your money and how to jump to the next thing. Because like Sunil was saying, after you're on the property ladder, it's easy. Like your money's in there; it's not going to run away. Everything's appreciating. So it's just about remortgaging and just moving on. So
and that's the thing. Obviously, like you look at it once you're on, and obviously now looking at the last 2-3 years, and not as much so, but hopefully we get back to the times post Brexit. But you could buy a property, and you said within 2-3 years it's gone up by 50, 60, 70k.
Yeah.
And you then free to take out a portion of that, because you said you can take out a portion of that equity gained and go again. And myself personally, I've been focused very much in London just because I don't really want to outsource stuff to, if I go and get stuff, all the houses are cheaper up north and stuff. Yeah. I don't really want to outsource stuff. For me, I want to just have it in London where I can keep an eye on it and stuff. Yeah. And the appreciation you're going to get is more within London in regards to kind of the equity and the value of the property. Yeah. But as you said, once you get it, it's so much easier just to kind of take it out and remortgage and go again and kind of see what else you can do. So there's a lot of information out there. If people are interested in that, they should just look into it. And it's a safe way. Pause. It's a safer way to store your money. You're getting more back than just having it in the bank, and it kind of allows you to pass stuff down, especially when you get into like inheritance tax and stuff, and putting your kids' names on it and blah blah blah. There's kind of ways to kind of make the most of your kind of tax benefits and stuff. So it's everything to think about. So
you mentioned equity for people that are just getting started. Like how you said took out money. Could you explain like how you take money out of a house, or explain what equity is? Please?
So if you think of it like this, right? Let's just keep the math simple, right? If you have a house that is 100k, is worth 100k, right? You have to put a deposit down, right? So say for example you put down 20% deposit, right? So that's 20k you put into kind of the property. And you go on maybe a fixed term contract for 2 years, and you're paying back a set amount you agree with the bank, right? After 2 years, you find out that the house has gone up, so it's now worth 150k, right? So that includes, so it's gone up 50k, plus you've got 20k that you've put in there, right? So essentially, there's 70 grand's worth of your money, 20% that you've got, and 50% from the profit that is in that you still owe the bank the 80k you borrowed minus whatever you paid off in that time. So when you come to remortgage now, you can either now remortgage with a new broker to pay off what you owe for the previous person. So say it's gone down to 75, for example. You pay the 75 back, and then you'll take out a larger mortgage from from your new bank. So you might take out 120k mortgage now. So if you've got 120k mortgage, you pay the 75 off, and the rest is now yours to do what you want. So people use it to either do improvements on the house and kind of increase the value of the house that way, or they use it like I have and you have and other people do, is to go again and find something else. And then if you pick wisely, then you can maybe do the same thing again. Obviously there's limits you want to do. You don't want to max out your equity, because if things go for worse, and you'll be in negative equity. So it's always good to leave as much as you can in there, and you take what you need. Don't just say, well, yeah, that's me, I'm going to go live life, Vegas and all these things here. But you get me, Splash Gang. But yeah, it's just about it's just about doing it correctly, right? So yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Cool. So what would you say is your biggest hurdle, like just to get over a hump?
In regards to
your career, your the housing scenario, everything like that. Like,
I think for me it was just finding out what my passion was. I think as I've grown in life, so I think I started technology. Technology is always going to be there for me. I've always got a great passion for technology. But before, technology was my main love, and I thought that's going to be like my career. And as I kind of got a taste of it, it was like I still like it, but it's not for me. Finances allowed me to explore other avenues. And kind of over the last 5-6 years, property, interior design, stuff like that is something that has kind of really caught me. And I see that's where, going into a new decade, I can see 2020 and beyond being very focused on that side of things and building up, kind of the property portfolio and stuff I have, and trying to max that out. And I feel like that's probably been my biggest hurdle during my 20s, just learning kind of where my passions are and where I see myself going. So I think, that's kind of been my biggest hurdle, and that's kind of juggling what you think you're meant to be doing versus what you actually want to do, and kind of where you fall within that spectrum.
Got you. you're gonna ask the E-man question.
What's the E-man question?
Every time you ask this question,
okay.
You know the question, bro. I'll let you
No.
The listeners know the question as well.
I try and phrase it in a better way. I know he doesn't want to. No. Basically, obviously, every time someone comes on, innit, like the other aspect of a career and all that types of stuff, innit, is what people might not understand or might not get to is that what it might impact them on their social life or like on the other side, like how much time they put into relationships and other passions and stuff like that, innit? So basically, the question is like, do you think, for example, like, you working in a bank with doing long hours, do you think that kind of curtailed you maybe getting married at an earlier stage or having kids at an earlier stage or whatever? Like,
no.
Do you think it's been quite balanced for you?
Yeah, no. So I think from my point of view, I've always valued work-life balance highly.
Okay.
So for me personally, no amount of money can make me sacrifice like my personal life. Right?
Yeah.
That's me personally. I stand in that strongly. Could I have been further on in my career if I had slacked off all personal kind of endeavors and focused solely on my career? Of course.
Yeah.
But for me and my happiness, that wouldn't have been where I want to be, right? Money only motivates me to a certain point. I think happiness and legacy does the rest, right? So I think, you know, from my point of view, I was able to, after the first few years of your career, obviously very early when you're thrown into bank, you kind of do what you have to do. But after that, I was able to pick roles that I know the work-life balance was acceptable, right? And kind of manage it from there. I think, as you said, 9 to 6 is not the greatest hours, you know, but compared to some other people that I know working in other teams, they're working 12-hour days and stuff. It's about balancing it out, right? And I think, you know, that's kind of the mindset I've been on. And I think in regards to kind of personal life, for me, it was about being in a place in my life when I was willing to settle down. And kind of make those next big steps in life, right? I didn't really want to, and it's not for everyone, but I wouldn't have wanted to do that until I had a roof over my head. I felt financially stable. I felt like within myself, I was where I needed to be before I kind of started thinking about marriage and kids and all this, right? So, and that might not be the same for everyone, but for me personally, that's kind of what I was kind of drummed into me. Make sure, you know, your home is settled before you start bringing in, you know, young ones or whatever else. And so that's kind of been my mindset, where, you know, work-life balance is very important to me, and I wouldn't really sacrifice that.
So would you see that as a goal, like as, okay, cool, like whilst I'm working now, I want to do this so that I can then progress with my life at a later stage?
Of course, that's been the goal for. I think everyone's goal is, you know, is about having multiple income streams, right? And you know, I'm sure everyone's seen self-help books and all the YouTube videos where there's passive and etc. different kinds of income streams, and it's about making as much money, or make your money work for you as much as you can, right? So obviously while you're working, you have a career, that's going to, you actively getting money, but, you know, with your side investment stuff, you want to make sure that at some point the goal is that does so much for you that you don't really need to work.
To do the rest.
Right? You don't need to do the rest. And I think that's most people's goals, I think. And I think when you get to that stage, that's when you truly are kind of got the work-life balance, you can do what you want then. But at the stage I'm in now, it's like, you know, I'm looking to start a family, I'm looking to do all this and that, so I need to make sure that I've got as much time as I can
to do that as well.
To obviously, you know, be there for the family.
Okay.
And stuff, innit, so.
But you saw that from earlier?
Yeah, of course. That's been kind of running through me since, you know, my early 20s. Like, you can't be shy to do the hard work, and there's going to be times in your career when you have to be. But then it comes a decision where you come to a crossroads where, you know, I can go this way and the hours might be super long and blah, 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 and you will be rewarded for it at the end of it 9 times out of 10, versus the sacrifice you have to make doing that means you might not get X, Y, Z. And there's some people that have gone that route and they're super successful now, and that was right for them. But for me personally, I value the bonds I made with my friends, the time I spent with them, you know, with family and stuff like that. That's what I value high. Right? So.
Dope. So yeah, it's good for people to know that you can have both. You can have a successful career and still have your own work-life balance and still.
100%, it's achievable. Obviously, it's just about kind of making a sacrifice and understanding that, you know, your career might not flourish as quick as maybe other people's do, because you've made that choice, and be happy within the choices you make. I kind of think you're right as well, but I kind of think you kind of do need to peep it kind of early. Like if you don't, because I know obviously, like there's other people who made other choices where maybe they wasn't really thinking, okay, in 4 or 5 years, I'm probably gonna want to settle down. Like maybe I was just thinking, okay, cool, I just want to make as much money as I can, and then go on holiday, type of thing. So it's like, which is a good life, I can't lie. Right?
It's a good life, but then as in, I think it's good that if that's what your kind of personality is, that you think that, you know, eventually that's one of your goals, to have kids and to get married at some point in your life, then it's always good to have that goal to be like, okay, for me to achieve that, how financially stable do I need to be? So I think it's all well and personally I think it's all well and good having that goal, but you kind of do need to have that, like, okay, cool,
bigger vision.
That's a bigger vision.
And I think some people, it goes two ways. I know some people that have gone down that route of working mad hours and they've smashed so much peas that they're actually set now. Yeah, that's good. But they might have sacrificed 10 years of their life and they're 20, but they're set good now. And now they're looking at that side of things, which is one way of doing it. Given the situation I was in, family and whatever else, and kind of the vibe, I couldn't really be doing that. So mine was a different route. But as I said, obviously that's not going to work for everyone, but if you can, then amazing, right? But you know, you don't want to be in a position where you kind of go down that route and you're kind of like, you feel like you're not satisfied because you don't have the other side. It's about balancing and not to, you know, kind of be harsh, but if you burn yourself out or you come down with stress or you come with this, there's only so much these companies are going to be here for you, right? When in hard times, you lean on your family, you lean on your friends, right? So you can't neglect them for one and vice versa.
Just a mash piece, makes sense.
Yeah, they'll replace you real quick. Cool. But yeah, thank you, Sunil. For young people that are trying to still get into finance, how can they get in contact with you? Like, what's the best way to reach you?
LinkedIn, I think. I think LinkedIn's the best way. If you, I'm sure Rams and Eman will kind of add it in the description or whatever. Hit me up on LinkedIn, Sunil Okonedo, and drop me a message. There's been a few people actually. One actually, which I was actually quite surprised at. One guy, maybe about 5-6 years ago, actually. You know, you mentioned this. He messaged me on LinkedIn. He saw where I worked and messaged me and was like, blah, 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 kind of want to get into financial. And I gave him some tips and stuff. And like, we kind of lost contact, but lo and behold, like about a year ago, I see him walking around the floor in my office. I was like, wow. He actually came up to me and was like, wow, thank you very much, blah, blah. And that was kind of like a heartwarming moment for that. And I think, just hit me up on LinkedIn and we'll kind of conversate and take it from there, I guess.
Dope.
Yeah, man.
Someone's got the gems, so shout in when you need him. But yeah, so that's the Ends to Excellence podcast. Thank you for listening. Boom.
Bless up, guys.
Safe, brother.
Cool.
Jeez, yeah.